The twin sons of Celestia cast long shadows across the royal palace as Princess Taiha stood at the grand observatory. Her silver-blue skin shimmered in the fading light, her eyes, deep pools of violet, fixed on the distant stars. Something felt wrong today. The sacred crystals that had protected her people for 10,000 years had dimmed overnight, a bad omen that the royal scientists could not explain. "Your Highness," a voice called from behind her. Commander Jiwu approached, his normally calm face marked with worry. "The border outposts have gone silent." Taiha turned, her long robes of state swirling around her slender form. "All of them?" "Yes, Princess." No response for the past 3 hours. She was about to reply when the palace alarms began to wail. The sound pierced the evening calm, a noise not heard for generations. Taiha rushed to the monitoring station, where her royal advisor Hanu was already reviewing incoming data. "Unknown vessels have entered our atmosphere," Hanu reported, his aged fingers moving swiftly across the control panel. "They match no friendly signatures." The observatory dome retracted, giving them a clear view of the darkening sky. What they saw stole the breath from Taiha's lungs. Massive black ships shaped like jagged spears punched through the clouds, hundreds of them blotting out the stars. "The Void Dominion," Hanu whispered, his voice trembling. "They have found us." The first explosions rocked the capital city below. Green fire, the terrible weapons of the Dominion, rained down upon the crystalline buildings. Towers that had stood for millennia shattered like glass. The screams of her people rose up, carried on the wind to where Taiha stood frozen in horror. "Princess, we must activate the planetary shields," Jiwu urged. Taiha snapped from her shock and rushed to the defense controls. She pressed her palm against the royal seal, channeling her energy into the ancient systems. The familiar hum of the shields began to build, then faltered. "Something's wrong," she said, trying again. "The shields aren't responding correctly." "Hanu, check the secondary systems." "The shield generators have been sabotaged. This attack was planned long ago." More explosions, closer now. The palace trembled, guards rushed in, taking defensive positions. "Your Highness," one of them called. "The royal family, your parents and siblings, their transport was shot down while returning from the summer." "Palace." Taiha felt her knees weaken. "All of them." The guard lowered his head. "We've received no survival signals." In that moment, Princess Taiha became the last of the royal line, the sole surviving ruler of an empire under attack. She straightened, her back pushing down her grief. "Prepare the royal escape vessel," she ordered, "and send the emergency signal to the Galactic Council. We request immediate aid." While her orders were carried out, Taiha accessed the secure vault beneath the observatory. Inside, she retrieved the star crown, the symbol of Astrali leadership, and the data crystals containing her people's history and knowledge. These could not fall into Dominion hands. The palace shook again as a nearby defense tower collapsed. The lights flickered. "Your Highness, we must leave now," Jiwu insisted, his arm bleeding from a wound she hadn't noticed before. "The escape route may already be compromised." They ran through the ornate halls of the palace, past artwork and treasures from 1,000 worlds. Guards formed a protective circle around her. Twice they encountered Dominion soldiers, tall, grey-skinned beings with eyes that reflected no light, and twice Jiwu and his forces pushed them back. The royal hangar was in chaos when they arrived. Many of the ships had been destroyed, but the royal escape vessel, smaller and faster than the others, remained intact. Pilot Duri was already at the controls, the engines humming to life. "We have room for 12, Duri called out. "No more?" Taiha looked at the frightened palace staff who had gathered. "Far more than 12. "Who knows how to fight? Who has technical skills we might need?" she asked. 6 people stepped forward, along with Jiwu, Hanu, and Duri. 10 total, including herself. 2 spaces remained. A young mother holding a baby stepped forward. "Please, Your Highness, my daughter. She's only 6 months old." Taiha nodded, and the woman boarded with her child. The others understood they would stay behind. Some bowed, others simply nodded. All accepted their fate with dignity. That brought tears to Taiha's eyes. "I will return for you," she promised, knowing it might be a lie. As the hangar doors opened, they saw the full extent of the devastation. The beautiful capital city of Luminara was in flames. The Void Dominion ships continued their methodical destruction, sector by sector. "All defense systems activated," Zhou reported as they strapped into their seats. "It won't hold them long, but it might give us the cover we need." The escape vessel rose on silent engines. Around them, the palace's remaining weapons fired at the Dominion ships, drawing their attention away from the small craft slipping past the battle line. "Atmospheric breach in 30 seconds, Zhou reported. "Preparing for jump to safe coordinates." A violent impact rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. "We've been hit," Zhou called out. "Propulsion systems damaged." Taiha looked back at her burning world one last time as they limped away from Celestia. The Dominion ships were beginning to turn their attention toward them. "Jump now," she ordered. "Anywhere, just away from here." The stars stretched and blurred as the damaged ship pushed into jump space. They had escaped, but barely. Warnings continued to sound throughout the vessel. "Life support stable," Hanu reported, "but main engines are failing. We'll drop out of jump space soon, and we won't be able to jump again." As the reality of their situation settled over them, Taiha clutched the star crown in her hands. Her world was falling, her family was gone. Her people suffered under the Dominion's attack. And now, adrift in space with limited resources, the last hope of the Astrali Empire was fading like the light of a dying star. 23 days had passed since their escape from Celestia. Princess Taiha sat alone in what had once been the ship's small dining area, now converted to a command center. The emergency lights cast everything in a dim blue glow to conserve power. She stared at the star crown resting on the table before her, its once brilliant crystals now dull in the low light. "Your Highness," Hanu said softly as he entered. The old advisor moved more slowly now, the strain of their journey evident in his tired eyes. "The daily systems report." Taiha nodded, though she already knew what it would say. Each day the news grew worse. "Life support is functioning at 38%, Hanu continued. "Duri estimates we have 5 days before the oxygen recyclers fail completely." "And our location?" Taiha asked, still unknown. "The navigation systems were damaged in the escape. We are in a region of space not mapped in our databases." Taiha closed her eyes. After the jump drive had failed, they had drifted, unable to control their direction. Their distress beacon sent its call into the emptiness, but who would hear it out here so far from known space? The door slid open again as Commander Zhou entered. His arm was healing slowly, the Astrali's natural regeneration, hindered by their limited medical supplies. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" Taiha asked, though she already suspected the answer. Zhou's face hardened. "They have responded at last. They have declared neutrality in what they call an internal conflict. They will not send aid." "Cowards," Taiha whispered. The Astrali Empire had stood with the Council many times over the centuries. Now when they needed help most, the Council had abandoned them. "There's more," Zhou said, his voice dropping lower. "We've intercepted Dominion broadcasts. They've taken control of 3 more Astrali worlds. Your cousins in the eastern provinces have been publicly executed. The Dominion declares the royal line broken." Taiha felt her chest tighten. More family. Lost. More of her people suffering. And she, their princess, powerless to help them. The baby's cry echoed from the sleeping quarters. The young mother, Nari, had named her daughter Hope, though the name felt more like a prayer with each passing day. The infant was the youngest Astrali refugee in existence now, perhaps the future of their kind if they somehow survived. "Temperature controls are failing in the lower sections," Duri reported, entering from the cockpit. The pilot looked exhausted, having spent most of her waking hours trying to repair their damaged systems. "I've had to seal off the cargo hold to preserve heat in the main cabin." Taiha stood, straightening her simple tunic. Her royal robes had been stored away days ago, impractical in their current situation. "Let's redistribute the blankets," she said. "Everyone gets 1 sleep cycle with heat, 1 without. I'll take the first cold cycle." "But, Your Highness," Zhou began to protest. "We survive together or not at all," Taiha cut him off. "Royal blood doesn't keep me warmer than anyone else." That night, as the others slept in the slightly warmer upper cabin, Taiha sat alone in the observation room. Beyond the viewport, unfamiliar stars drifted past. Somewhere out there, her homeworld burned. Somewhere her people looked to the stars and wondered if any hope remained. She activated her personal recorder, a small device usually used for royal proclamations. Now it might serve as her final testament. This is Princess Taiha of the Astrali Empire, recording on the 23rd day of exile, she began, her voice soft. Our situation grows dire. If anyone finds this message, know that the Astrali fought with honor against the Void Dominion. Know that we... A sudden lurch threw her against the viewport. The emergency alarms blared throughout the ship. Alert, the ship's system announced. Unknown gravitational field detected. Course alteration imminent. Taiha rushed to the cockpit, where Dury was already at the controls, the others quickly joining them. "What's happening?" Taiha demanded. "Something's pulling us off course," Dury explained, frantically trying to stabilize their drift. It's like we've been caught in a tractor beam, but there's no source I can detect." Through the main viewport, they watched as the stars seemed to shift around them. Their damaged ship, powerless to resist, was being drawn toward something. "There," Hanu pointed at the scanners, "a spatial anomaly. It doesn't match any known natural phenomenon." The ship shuddered again as they were pulled deeper into the strange effect. The lights flickered, then failed completely before the emergency backup engaged. "Power drain increasing," Dury reported. "Whatever this is, it's feeding on our energy." In the darkness of space before them, something impossible appeared. A tear. In the fabric of reality, a swirling vortex of light that defied explanation. "Is it a wormhole?" Jiwoo asked, his voice filled with both wonder and fear. "No wormhole I've ever seen," Hanu replied. "The energy signature is all wrong." As they drew closer to the phenomenon, the ship's few functioning systems began to fail one by one. The temperature dropped rapidly. Frost formed on the inner walls. "We can't break free," Dury shouted over the alarms. "Brace for impact, or whatever's about to happen." Taiha reached out, taking Hanu's withered hand in her right and Jiwoo's strong one in her left. The others did the same, forming a chain of connection in what might be their final moments. "Whatever comes," Taiha said clearly, "we face it as Astrali, with dignity, with courage." The ship crossed the threshold of the anomaly. Light flooded the cabin, so bright it burned their eyes. Taiha felt a sensation like being pulled apart and put back together. Time seemed to stretch and compress all at once. And then, silence. The alarms stopped. The shaking ceased. Slowly, cautiously, they opened their eyes. Before them, through the viewport, they saw not the empty void they had drifted through for weeks, but a massive field of debris. Asteroids, ancient shipwrecks, and structures of unknown origin floated in a vast cloud around them. "Where are we?" Nari whispered, clutching baby Hope to her chest. Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system crackled to life, a system that had been dead for days. "Unidentified vessel," came a voice unlike any they had heard before, speaking in a language their translators struggled to properly interpret. "You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves or be destroyed." Taiha stood tall, her royal bearing returning despite their desperate situation. Whatever new danger they faced, it was better than the slow death of their drift. At least now something was happening. For better or worse, their fate was changing. "This is Princess Taiha of the Astrali Empire," she responded, her voice clear and commanding. "We are refugees seeking sanctuary from the Void Dominion. We come in peace and request assistance." The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then, "Astrali," the voice said, with what sounded like surprise. "Stand by for boarding. We have much to discuss." As her companions exchanged confused glances, Taiha felt something she had thought lost forever, a small, fragile spark of hope. The boarding tube connected to their ship with a metallic thunk that echoed through the silent cabin. Princess Taiha stood with Commander Jiwoo and Advisor Hanu beside the airlock, while the others remained back. Jiwoo held the last working weapon they had, a Royal Guard's plasma pistol with half a charge left. "Remember," Taiha whispered to her companions, "we know nothing about these beings. Let me do the talking." The airlock hissed open. Taiha steeled herself for whatever alien forms might emerge, perhaps tentacled creatures or energy beings unlike anything in known space. Instead, a figure stepped through that made them all gasp. It looked almost astrali, but different in key ways. The being had the same basic shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, but its skin was a solid tan color rather than the shimmering blue of Taiha's people. Its eyes were dark, not the brilliant violet of the astrali. It appeared sturdier, more solid somehow. The being wore a sleek black uniform with unfamiliar symbols on the shoulder. Behind it came 4 more similarly dressed individuals, each carrying what were clearly weapons, though of unusual design. "Greetings," the first being said, their translator finally catching up to the new language. "I am Captain Minho of the Earth vessel Shadow Reach." "Earth?" Hanu whispered in disbelief. "Humans? That's impossible." Humans were known to the galaxy, but barely. A primitive species from a backwater planet who had achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. They had made initial contact with the Galactic Council, but remained largely on their homeworld, their technology considered crude and their military power non-existent. Yet here stood humans in an advanced ship, in a region of space no known maps had charted. "I am Princess Taiha of the Astrali Empire," she replied, maintaining her royal poise despite her shock. "This is my advisor Hanu and Commander Jiwu of the Royal Guard." Captain Minho studied them, his expression revealing nothing. "Your ship is severely damaged. We detected your life support systems are near failure. We escaped the fall of our homeworld," Taiha explained. "The Void Dominion attacked without warning." At the mention of the Dominion, the humans exchanged glances. Captain Minho's expression hardened. "We're familiar with the Dominion," he said. "We've been tracking their expansion for some time." One of the humans behind him stepped forward, a woman with short black hair and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. "Your ship cannot be repaired," she said bluntly. "You and your people will come aboard our vessel." It wasn't a question, but neither did it sound like a threat. Simply a fact. "And then?" Taiha asked. "And then we talk," Captain Minho said. "There is much we need to discuss." With few options, Taiha agreed. The Astrali refugees gathered their few belongings, the sacred data crystals, the star crown, what little food and medicine remained. Baby Hope cried softly as they moved through the boarding tube into the human ship. The difference was immediate and shocking. Where their vessel had been cold and dark, the human ship was warm and well lit. The technology was unlike anything Taiha had seen, neither the crystalline elegance of Astrali design nor the biomechanical horror of Dominion ships. This was something entirely different. "Your ship," Hanu said, looking around in wonder. "The design is not what you expected from primitive humans," the female officer said with a small smile. "I'm Commander Yunha, second in command of the Shadow Reach." They were led to a large room with a central table displaying a holographic map of the galaxy. Taiha was surprised to see accurate representations of Dominion territory, including recent conquests that even the Astrali royal maps would not have shown yet. "How do you have this information?" Jiwu demanded. "The Dominion conquests of our outer worlds happened less than a month ago." Captain Minho gestured for them to sit. 3 years ago, a Dominion scout ship entered our solar system. They believed us primitive and easy targets for future conquest. They were wrong. He pressed a button, and the hologram changed to show an image of a damaged Dominion vessel in orbit around a blue-green planet. "We captured their ship," Minho continued. "Studied their technology, learned their plans." "Impossible," Hanu shook his head. "Your species isn't advanced enough to overcome Dominion technology." Commander Yunha laughed, a short, sharp sound. "The galaxy has been misled about many things regarding humanity." A door slid open, and a new human entered. Unlike the others, in their military uniforms, this one wore simple civilian clothes. Yet the way the others straightened in her presence suggested importance. "Princess Taiha," Captain Minho said, "may I present Admiral Zhou of the Earth Defense Fleet." The woman was older than the others, with streaks of grey in her black hair. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent as she studied the Astrali refugees. "So," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "the last princess of the Astrali Empire. The Dominion believes you dead, you know. They've announced the complete eradication of your royal line." How could you possibly know that? Taiha asked. Admiral, Sora smiled slightly. Because we make it our business to know our enemy. While the galaxy believes humanity is still learning to leave its cradle, we've been preparing. She activated a new hologram and Taiha's breath caught. It showed a massive fleet of ships, hundreds of vessels of varying sizes, all of human design. This, Admiral Sora said, is the Earth Defense Fleet, hidden beyond the edge of our solar system, unknown to the Galactic Council or any other species. Why hide your strength? Jiwoo asked, clearly reassessing the humans with each passing moment. Because the element of surprise is the greatest advantage in war, Admiral Sora replied. The Dominion conquers through fear and overwhelming force. They expect resistance to be direct and predictable. They've never faced humanity before. She leaned forward, her eyes locked with Taiha's. Your empire has fallen, Princess, but perhaps not permanently. We've been waiting for the right moment to strike against the Dominion. Your arrival might be exactly the opportunity we needed. Why would humans help the Astrali? Taiha asked, suspicious despite her desperate situation. Our peoples have no alliance, no history together. Admiral Sora's expression grew serious. Because the Dominion won't stop with your worlds. Earth is also on their list for conquest or destruction. We fight for our own survival, she gestured to the star map. But more than that, we fight because someone must. The Galactic Council cowers, other empires hide. We choose to stand. For the first time since fleeing Celestia, Taiha felt something stir within her, besides grief and fear. These strange humans, these supposedly primitive beings, had done what no other species had dared. They had prepared to fight the unstoppable Void Dominion. What are you proposing, Admiral? Taiha asked. An alliance, Sora replied without hesitation. Your knowledge of Dominion tactics and Astrali technology, combined with our fleet and our unique approach to warfare. Captain Minho smiled at this. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years, Princess. We've gotten very good at it. Taiha looked to Hanu and Jiwoo, seeing in their eyes the same cautious hope she felt. These humans were their only chance. Tell me more about this fleet of yours, Admiral, Taiha said, and then let's discuss how we might take back my world. The human base, called Shadowhaven, was hidden inside a massive asteroid at the edge of Earth's solar system. As the Shadow Reach approached, Taiha saw nothing unusual at first, just a field of space rocks drifting silently. Then, as they drew closer, a section of the largest asteroid seemed to shimmer and part, revealing an entrance large enough for their ship. Holographic camouflage, explained Captain Minho as Taiha watched from the bridge. Any passing scans would detect only natural formations. Inside the asteroid was a hollow space so vast that Taiha could hardly believe it was artificial. Dozens of ships were docked in organized rows, fighters, transports, and massive warships, unlike any design she had seen in the galaxy. How long has this been here? She asked in wonder. Construction began 30 years ago, Admiral Sora said. After our first deep space probes detected signals from the Dominion fleet, we knew someday they would come for Earth. The Shadow Reach docked at a central platform. When they disembarked, Taiha noticed the gravity was slightly stronger than on their ship. Her legs felt heavy as she walked. Earth gravity, Commander Yunha explained, noticing her adjustment. We keep it standard throughout the base. You'll get used to it. Their small group of Astrali refugees was led through wide corridors, bustling with human activity. Technicians worked on equipment, soldiers trained in large rooms, and scientists hunched over complicated diagrams. None of it matched the primitive image of humans that the galaxy believed. Admiral Sora brought them to a circular room with a large table at its center. The walls displayed screens showing various parts of the galaxy, many focused on Dominion movements. This is our war room, Admiral Sora explained. From here, we coordinate our intelligence operations and plan our strategy. A tall, thin human man approached them. Unlike the military personnel, he wore simple civilian clothes and glasses over his eyes, an ancient correction device that surprised Taiha. This is Professor Hyun, Admiral Sora introduced him, our lead scientist and the architect of many of our technological advances. Princess, The professor bowed slightly. I've studied Astrali technology for years, from the limited data available. Your crystal matrices for energy storage are particularly fascinating. Taiha raised an eyebrow. How could you study our technology? We've shared very little with the broader galaxy, and nothing with Earth specifically. The professor smiled. The galaxy leaks information, Princess. We listen carefully. Over the next few hours, the humans shared their plans and knowledge. Taiha was astonished by how much they knew about the Dominion, their ship designs, their command structure, even the names of high-ranking leaders. We've had infiltration units gathering intelligence for years, explained Commander Yunha. Some of our agents have been embedded in trading outposts near Dominion space. But why hasn't Earth joined the Galactic Council? Asked Hanu. With your level of technology, you would be welcomed. Admiral Sora's expression hardened. The Council is weak. When the Nyx Collective was destroyed by the Dominion 5 years ago, the Council did nothing. When the Ferian systems were conquered, the Council called it an internal matter. We watched and decided we would rely on ourselves. Taiha couldn't argue with that assessment. The Council had abandoned her people too. Professor Hyun activated a hologram showing Earth's solar system. We've built defense networks around every planet and major moon. If the Dominion comes to our doorstep, they'll face resistance unlike anything they've encountered. But we would prefer to stop them before that becomes necessary. Which is where you come in, Princess, Admiral Sora said. Your knowledge of Astrali defense systems could help us refine our own. And more importantly, your status as the last royal gives us a rallying point for liberating your homeworld. Liberation? Taiha's heart beat faster. You believe it's possible? Captain Minyo stepped forward. We've developed a plan we call Operation Starlight. With your help, we believe we can strike directly at the Dominion forces occupying Celestia. He activated a new hologram showing a detailed map of Taiha's homeworld. Key locations were marked: the Royal Palace, defense installations, population centers. The Dominion believes in overwhelming force, Minho explained, but they've never faced human tactics. We prefer asymmetrical approaches. What he means, Commander Unha said with a slight smile, is that we fight dirty. Later, Taiha stood alone at a viewport looking out at the massive human fleet. Commander Jiwoo joined her, his expression thoughtful. Do you trust them? He asked. Quietly. Taiha considered the question. They saved us when no one else would. They've shown us their secret base. They're offering to help reclaim our homeworld. If they wanted to harm us, why go to such lengths? Perhaps they only wish to use us against their enemy, Jiwoo suggested. Perhaps, Taiha agreed, but our interests align. For now, that must be enough. Admiral Sora approached, carrying an object wrapped in cloth. Princess, I thought you might want this. She unwrapped the cloth to reveal the star crown, which had been taken for security reasons when they first arrived. But now it had been modified. The central crystal glowed with new energy. We took the liberty of recharging the power matrix, Sora explained. Professor Hyun believes it's not just a symbol, but a key to Astrali technology. Taiha took the crown, feeling its familiar weight in her hands. You're right. It connects to the royal command systems. With it, I could reactivate defenses the Dominion wouldn't know how to disable. Admiral Sora nodded. Tomorrow, we begin planning in earnest. Your people will teach us about Astrali systems, and we will teach you human warfare. Together we might stand a chance. That night, in the quarters assigned to her, Taiha placed the star crown on a small table. For the first time since fleeing Celestia, she allowed herself to truly hope. These strange humans, with their secret fleet and their unusual ways, offered something no one else had, a chance to fight back. She touched the central crystal of the crown and it pulsed with light, responding to her royal bloodline. A sign, perhaps, that not all was lost. From the room next door she heard baby Hope crying, then quieting as Nari sang a soft Astrali lullaby. The youngest survivor of her people, born in peaceful times, might yet see her homeworld again. We are not finished, Taiha whispered to herself. The Astrali still stand, the human stealth ship, cut silently through Celestia's upper atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Dominion sensors. Inside the small craft, Princess Taiha looked out at her homeworld, For the first time in nearly 2 months, the beautiful crystalline cities now lay broken under Dominion occupation. Black towers had been erected in the capital, ugly spikes against the once perfect skyline. 5 minutes to drop point, Lieutenant Zhou said from the pilot's seat. The young human soldier had been assigned to lead their ground team, a mix of human special forces and the few combat-ready Astrali. Taiha touched the star crown, now fitted to her head. No longer merely decorative, the humans had enhanced its capabilities, turning the royal symbol into a powerful tool that could interface with Astrali technology. "Remember the plan," Commander Jiwoo told the team. "We infiltrate the palace, reach the central control hub, and Princess Taiha activates the hidden defense grid. Timing is everything." In orbit above them, hidden behind Celestia's third moon, Admiral Zora's fleet waited. 300 ships, from small fighters to the massive flagship Defiance, all ready to spring the trap once the ground team completed their mission. The stealth ship landed in the forest outside the capital, trees with luminescent leaves cast a soft blue glow over the team as they disembarked. Taiha breathed the air of her homeworld, sweet and familiar despite all that had happened. "Movement ahead," one of the human soldiers whispered, checking a small scanner. "Dominion patrol, 4 units. Lieutenant Zhou signaled the team to take cover. The tall, gray-skinned Dominion soldiers moved through the forest, their breathing apparatus making a distinctive hissing sound in the night. Their eyes, black pools that reflected no light, swept the area without seeing the hidden infiltrators. When the patrol passed, the team moved quickly toward the city. The palace rose in the distance, its once gleaming towers now dark under Dominion control. "There's the service tunnel," Taiha whispered, pointing to a small opening near the palace gardens. "Only the royal family knows of this entrance." They slipped inside, moving through narrow passages built centuries ago as escape routes. The tunnels were dusty but intact, untouched by the invaders who didn't know they existed. "Contact from the fleet," Zhou reported quietly, checking his communication device. "Admiral Zhou says all ships are in position. We have 90 minutes before they must begin the attack, with or without the defense grid." The pressure of time pushed them forward. They emerged from the passage into the lower levels of the palace. Here they encountered their first resistance. 2 Dominion guards outside the power control room. Jiwoo and 2 human soldiers moved with silent efficiency. Stun weapons fired, and the guards collapsed without raising the alarm. The main control. "Herb is 3 levels up," Taiha said. "The lifts will be guarded. Then we climb," Lieutenant Zhou replied, moving to a maintenance shaft. As they ascended through the palace, Taiha saw evidence of the Dominion's cruelty. Artwork had been destroyed, historical displays smashed. In one hall, the portraits of her ancestors had been defaced, their faces burned away. They encountered more guards as they neared the control hub. Each time, the combination of human tactics and Astrali knowledge allowed them to overcome the resistance without alerting the main force. "Command, this is Shadow Team," Zhou reported over his secure channel. "We're approaching the objective. Standing by for Phase 2. Above the planet, the human fleet prepared to move. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Zhou watched the tactical display. "All ships, final positions," she ordered. "Weapons hot, but hold fire until the signal." Captain Minho, commanding the Shadow Reach, moved his ship into position behind the Dominion's orbital defense platform. "Ready to disable their communications on your mark, Admiral." In the palace control hub, Taiha and the team found what they sought, the central crystal matrix that controlled all of Celestia's ancient systems. The room was heavily guarded, with 8 Dominion soldiers and a commander. "We need a distraction," Jiwoo whispered. Lieutenant Zhou nodded to his team. Plan Thunderclap. 3 human soldiers moved to different positions around the room's entrance. At Zhou's signal, they activated devices that created powerful sonic bursts, harmless but disorienting to Dominion physiology. The guards clutched their heads in pain as the team rushed in. The fight was brief but intense. One of the human soldiers fell, wounded by Dominion fire. Jiwoo took a glancing blow to his shoulder. When it was over, Taiha rushed to the control matrix. The crystal responded to her touch, glowing softly at first, then with increasing brightness. It recognizes you, Hanu said with relief. The old advisor had insisted on joining the mission despite his age. Taiha placed both hands on the main crystal, feeling its energy flow through her. The star crown on her head pulsed in harmony with the matrix. Ancestral systems, she said in formal Astrali. Recognize Taiha, Royal House of Luminara, true heir to the throne of Celestia. Activate protocol. Starlight. The crystal flared with brilliant light. Throughout the palace, long-dormant systems began to awaken. Beneath the city, ancient machines stirred to life. Signal the fleet, Taiha ordered. Tell them it's time. Lieutenant Junho sent the code. In orbit, Admiral Sora received the confirmation. All ships, execute attack plan, she commanded. May. Earth stand with Celestia today. The human fleet emerged from hiding, catching the Dominion vessels completely by surprise. The Shadow Reach struck first, disabling the main communication array and preventing the Dominion from calling reinforcements. On the planet's surface, the ancient defense grid that Taiha had activated began its work. Shield generators that the Dominion had been unable to locate or understand suddenly powered on, creating a protective bubble around key Astrali population centers. More importantly, the grid sent out a pulse tuned specifically to Dominion technology, a pulse that temporarily disabled their weapons while leaving Astrali and human systems untouched. It was a defensive measure created generations ago, after the Astrali's first contact with the Dominion. In space, the battle unfolded unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The Dominion relied on overwhelming force and predictable patterns. The human fleet used chaotic, unpredictable movements that confused Dominion targeting systems. Ships darted in and out of formation, using maneuvers no sane pilot would attempt. They're breaking formation, Captain Minho reported from the Shadow Reach. They don't understand our attack pattern because there isn't one. Each ship captain is improvising. In the palace, Taiha activated the citywide communication system. Her voice rang out across the capital for the first time since the invasion. People of Celestia, she said, her voice steady and clear. This is Princess Taiha. I have returned with allies. The time has come to reclaim our world. Rise up against the Dominion. Throughout the city, the oppressed Astrali heard their princess's voice. They emerged from hiding, attacking Dominion forces whose weapons were temporarily disabled by the ancient defense grid. 3 days later, Taiha stood on the partially restored balcony of the royal palace. The city below was damaged, but free. Dominion ships had retreated from the system, their forces in disarray. Admiral Sora joined her, looking out at the rebuilding efforts. Human and Astrali worked side by side, clearing rubble and restoring power to damaged sections of the city. The Galactic Council has requested an emergency meeting, Sora said. News of our victory has spread fast. 3 other systems under Dominion control have already begun uprisings. And the Dominion? Taiha asked. Regrouping but shaken. They never expected to face an enemy who fought like we do. And they certainly never expected humans to have such a fleet. Taiha smiled slightly. The galaxy will never underestimate your species again. That was inevitable, Sora replied. We just decided to reveal ourselves on our terms, not theirs. Below them, a small crowd had gathered. Astrali citizens looked up at their princess and the human admiral, hope returning to their faces after months of occupation. What comes next? Taiha asked. We build a true alliance, Sora answered. Not just between humans and Astrali, but with all who wish to stand against the Dominion. Together we can show the galaxy that resistance is possible. Taiha nodded, feeling the weight of the star crown on her head. No longer just a symbol, but a promise for the future. Then let us begin, she said. There is much work to do. As the twin suns of Celestia set on the liberated world, Princess Taiha and Admiral Sora stood together, the last royal of an ancient empire and the representative of a young, unexpected power. The galaxy was changing, and from the darkness of near extinction, a new light had emerged. Operation Starlight had succeeded, and it was only the beginning.